Let me give you an example of something that's really amazing. I mean,
Please.
for example, Carl Sagan wrote a book called Contact, which I read years ago. And so Carl Sagan's looking around for a way to do interstellar travel, right? And so, he can't think of like any viable way to really do it. I mean, the kind of stuff that you see on Star Wars and stuff, it's so he calls a guy at Caltech, this guy Kip Thorne, and Kip Thorne sits back and he thinks about it, and he's an expert in black holes. So he calls Carl Sagan and he says, there's a thing called a wormhole, and let me describe it to you. So he describes this thing to Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan puts it in a book. Meanwhile, Kip Thorne, who's like this, he's a Nobel Prize winning physicist, basically starts thinking about wormholes and gets the entire world interested in wormholes. So now wormholes are like this big topic of exotic physics. And it came from Carl Sagan asking this guy, like, how do you think I could do it? You know? So there's it's the same thing with Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek was really interesting. I mean, it's super interesting because, they have this thing called a warp drive, right?
Mm.
So it turns out that there's this a physicist in South America, Miguel Alcubierre, who basically is a big Star Trek fan. And there are a lot of people who, the person who discovered CRISPR at Berkeley, the woman who discovered CRISPR at Berkeley, was a big Star Trek fan. So Star Trek actually inspired a lot of people. So this whole warp drive thing, Miguel Alcubierre, actually, he was an expert in general relativity. He comes up with a metric, this thing called a metric in general relativity, that would enable you to do a warp, like a warp bubble. So this is a big topic of research today. Is like warp bubbles.
Wow.
So there's a lot of like cross pollination between reality and fiction, and specifically science fiction.